Hello everyone, welcome back to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, dated 21st July 2024. Today again we will be discussing some important topics that has appeared in today's The Hindu and The Indian Express newspapers which are very relevant for your exam. In our first topic, we'll look into various aspects of protests that are going on in Bangladesh, and we will also learn an interesting topic, that is democratic backsliding. After that, we'll look into various dimensions of gender gap that is there in the education sector. Then we'll look into various aspects of debate that is going on with regard to the local job quotas in the states. Then we'll look into various rules that are applicable for the IAS probationers. After that, we'll look into some basic details about budget as it is going to be presented in few days. At the end, we will look into some prelims snippets which will help you in excelling your prelims exam. So stay tuned. Our first topic is Bangladesh protests. The context of this topic is that Bangladesh deploys army to curb students' unrest as death toll have risen to almost 133. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your UPSC prelims, current events of national and international importance, and syllabus of your GS paper 2, India and its neighborhood relations. So why there is in the first case itself these students are protesting? Actually, these students are protesting in the Bangladesh, especially with regard to the quota system, job quota system that is there in the Bangladesh. So in the Bangladesh, there is a quota system which reserves more than half of well-paid civil services posts for some specific group. For example, 30% quota is for freedom fighter children and the grandchildren. The children and grandchildren of people who have participated in 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. Then 10% quota is for backward districts, 10% quota for women, and 5% quota for minorities, and 1% is for physically challenged or disabled person. Only 44% is open to all, which is based on the merit. So students are saying that this quota system is against the merit and it is discriminatory, and this is not based on the merit. And they want recruitment to be based only and solely on the qualification and performance based on the merit rather than on the quota system or reservation system. So what was the trigger for the recent protest? Actually, what happened? The High Court ordered restatement of quota system in June 24. And it was actually abolished in the 2018 itself, and at that time also there has been lot of protest, student protest against this quota system. So government abolished this quota system in 2018. Again, High Court in this June 2024 have reinstated this quota system. Now the Supreme Court of Bangladesh have suspended the High Court order, and they will be looking into the petitions in the month of August. The government response, the government of Bangladesh have closed schools and universities nationwide. They have deployed the paramilitary force and also the army recently. And they have accused that opposition parties are infiltrating the protest and they are causing the unrest. Now, what has been the broader implications of this unrest? The main challenge that government of Bangladesh is facing to balance the affirmative action policies with the merit-based recruitment, and it also reflects the deeper socio-economic tensions that are there in the Bangladesh. And this is also one issue that has time and again came in the Indian society also, that how the government can balance the reservation or the affirmative action policies with the merit-based recruitment. Second is that since we have various states which share borders with the Bangladesh, if there are unrest, there are protests, there is violence that is going on in the Bangladesh, we also have some security and safety implications for the states that are surrounding the Bangladesh. And that is why the unrest in our neighborhood is one of the important factors that we have to look into. Now a question that I want to ask you people, that which is the country that shares longest border with India? Please comment your answers in the comment box. Now, let's also look into some basics. What is democracy? Democracy in simplest form is a government by the people. Now, the protest is a way of people to express their dissent or dissatisfaction with the government. One of the important features of democracy is the individual freedom. And these protests are one of the manifestations of the people's dissent and people freedom. And when these protests are curbed, they are being suppressed violently. That is against the democratic principles. And that is the case of democratic backsliding. Democratic backsliding can be defined as a case where there is erosion in the democratic institutions, where there is weakening of democratic institutions. Institutions like judiciary, institutions like the body that is conducting the elections, etc. So, as per this global state of democratic report, which is by International Institute of Democracy and Election Assistance, the number of countries that are becoming authoritarian has became much larger as compared to countries which are going towards the democracy. Means the authoritative countries, authoritative leaders are increasing to much larger extent as compared to the democratic leaders and the democratic countries. Then there is one VDEM Institute which release a democracy report that have also focused, that have also provided information, that have also manifested that the number of authoritative countries in the world are increasing manifold. Now, the curbing of the protest in the Bangladesh is also one of the case of democratic backsliding, as some experts believe this. Some of the main features of the democracy is individual freedom. For example, that is provided in the Constitution of India. Article 21 provides right to life and liberty. Article 19 provides freedom of speech and expression. Then the free and fair elections, the conducting body of elections is free, and the people have freedom to exercise their franchise. Then people also have freedom to contest the elections. Then the political participation, there is no discrimination. Everyone, irrespective of their religion, race, caste, can participate in the elections. Then there is peaceful change of government. Okay, for example, in from 2004 to 2014, we have the another government, that was UPA. Then after 2014, we have NDA government. So when this NDA gained majority in the 2014, there has been a peaceful change of government. There hasn't been any protest in India. That is a sign of very healthy, robust democracy. And India is a prominent example of democratic country in the world. Then there is also the popular representation. Then limited government. The government is limited. The various powers of the government is limited by the judiciary. Then the fundamental rights, etc. Then press is free. There is no censorship. Judiciary is there. Independent judiciary is there, especially in the appointment process of the judges, etc. Then the majority rule is there. Then equality between the citizens. There is no discrimination. For example, Article 14 provides for the right to equality in India. Now, what are various causes and manifestations of the democratic backsliding? As we have seen that this rule of law, judicial independence, human rights, separation of power between different organs of the government to ensure checks and balances, then limited government, citizen participation, civil society presence, then multi-party political system, democratic voting system, etc. are some of the features of this liberal democracy. For example, the democracy that is there in India. Now, when these institutions are weakening, for example, the erosion of judicial independence, when the appointment process to appoint the judges is being rigged, or there is lot of executive interference in the appointment process of the judges, and let's suppose if the orders of the or judgments of the judiciary is also getting affected, there is interference by the executive. That is a case of judicial backsliding, where there is erosion in the judicial independence. Then when we see the undermining of legislature, for example, debate and discussions are not happening properly, the various bills, etc. are passed without proper voting of the members, that is a case of legislative backsliding. Then there is restrictions on civil society. They do not function properly with full freedom. Then there is executive aggrandizement. What does it mean? The executive thinks himself or herself as the superpower. For example, the president of any country has become authoritarian. He do not consider the individual freedom. He have no thinking about the elections. He do not go for the proper elections. Judicial independence is not there. When executive becomes superpower, that is also a case of executive backsliding, where people's voice are not actually represented. The people's voice are not forming the government. Rather, it is one authoritative body, one authoritative executive that is ruling the country. Then the manipulation of elections. For example, voter suppressions. The voters are not free to exercise their franchise properly. Then electoral frauds are happening, means elections are being rigged. The actual vote that has been casted is not leading to the is not properly exercising to the actual results, means in between they are being rigged. Then also we are undermining the media freedom. For example, the electoral verdict is not coming properly with the media, not being shared properly with the media. People have several restrictions to contest the elections. There has been a specific discrimination with regard to the people who can exercise their franchise, who cannot. There is discrimination based on the religion, race, caste, etc. That is a case of electoral backsliding. So all this, when these institutions, whether it is judiciary, whether it is executive, legislature, or the election process, when there is erosion in these institutions, that is a case of democratic backsliding. Then some other causes, for example, the conservative reaction to the societal changes. For example, let's suppose there is a practice related to that culture or that country. If government want to change that is, there might be some resistance in the society related to that. Then there is also erosion of rights and freedoms. For example, crackdown on the freedom of expression. Let's suppose the government bans that what people can write on the social media, what can be printed in the newspapers and what cannot be. Then there is internet shutdown is there. If all these rights and expressions are being curbed, that is a crackdown on the freedom of expression, and that is also a case of democratic backsliding. Then if there is a restriction on freedom of assembly, then restrictions on the protests, etc., that is also a feature of democratic backsliding. Then if there are external influences, for example, foreign interference is there. Then if some country have some economic leverage and they are pressurizing, they are rigging the democratic process in one country, that is also a case of democratic backsliding. For example, if this protest that is going on in the Bangladesh, if that is being sponsored by some state or non-state actors, or sponsored by some other country, that is also a case of democratic backsliding, because the democratic institutions in the Bangladesh are being affected by some state sponsored protests. So what needs to be done? We need to strengthen the democratic institutions. Okay, for example, the judiciary, the electoral process, and the executives, the legislature, every institution needs to be strengthened. We need to promote the civic education. People needs to be taught their rights. They should be aware about their rights and duties, whatever they have. Then we also need to protect the judiciary, especially with regard to the appointment process and the judgments that are coming. Then we need to empower the legislatures. Okay, there should be proper voting, there should be proper debates and discussions on any bill or any law that is coming in that country. Then also there is need to support strong and independent civil society, because civil society provides a voice to the people. People may not be aware of various nitty-gritties that are happening in the countries. So civil society gives voice to the people, and that is where there is need for a strong civil society to ensure a robust democracy. Then there is also need to ensure free and fair elections to protect with regard to that, we need to protect the voting rights. There should be a suffrage, that people should be free to exercise their franchise. Then there is also need to promote electoral integrity. There should not be any rigging in the electoral process. The elections should be free and fair. Then there is also need to combat the disinformation, the fake news with regard to the electoral process, to ensure that the sanctity, the integrity of the election process remains there. Then there is also need to foster the social cohesion. We need to address the economic inequality, the poverty that is there. That will ensure there is social cohesion between the people. There is social integration. That will also create a unity in the people. Then we also need to promote the social inclusion, especially in the jobs, in the education sector, employment sector. People of all the race, religion, caste, etc. should be included. That is also a way of promoting the democracy. Then also we need to encourage the civic participation. And in this regard, what we can say, we need to promote the good governance. For example, some pillars of the good governance are that the government is accountable to the people, the government is transparent, proper information is being disseminated to the people. For example, in India, Right to Information Act came, that leads to the proper availability of information that is with the government. Then government is responsible to the needs of the people. Then the government is equitable and inclusive. It consists of it have representation from all the walks of the society. Then government is effective and efficient. Whatever the work it is doing, it's actually effective and efficient in improving the socio-economic conditions of the country. Then the country is also following the rule of law. There is no discrimination between the people of different walks of life. Then government is participatory, means here all stakeholders are participating, whether it is the citizens, whether it is the state government, local government, central government, civil society, NGOs, etc. Then the government is also consensus oriented, means whatever the law is coming, whatever the decision is being taken in the government is based on the consensus from the all the parties, all the people, whether it is one opposition party or a smaller party. The decision is being taken based on the consensus. All these parameters will help in promoting the good governance. And when this good governance will be promoted in any country, that will lead to a flourishing democracy. Then some other measures that can also be taken. For example, there is need for international cooperations, and we need to develop our proper democratic norms by the consensus between major democratic countries and all the countries. And there can be also some sanctions and the pressures also. For example, in the past few years, we have seen various countries where we have instances of democratic backsliding. For example, civil war is going on in the Myanmar. For example, various countries of the Africa are facing the issues where authoritarian regime is coming. So when the sanctions and the pressures will be coming, especially from some major developed and the developing countries, that they will be compelled to move towards the path of democracy. Then there is also need to support the pro-democracy movements, whatever the pro-democracy movements that are happening in any part of the world, to ensure that democratic spirit is flourishing properly in the world. Now, a mains practice question that you people can practice from this topic is that examining the factors contributing to democratic backsliding in the contemporary world order. How can strong institutions and an informed citizenry act as safeguards against such trends? Our second topic is gender gap in education. The context of this topic is that a write-up has appeared recently focusing on the various aspects of gender gap in education on account of recently released report, that is Global Gender Gap Report. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, issues related to women. Now, let's first look into some basics. This Global Gender Gap Index is released by World Economic Forum. And in the 2024 edition, our rank of India is 129th, which is a 2 position down from the rank we have in the 2023. So there are various parameters that are being followed, especially while preparing this Global Gender Gap Index or report. One is the economic participation and opportunity that is available to all the genders in any one particular country. And in this, they look for the estimated earned income, the wage equality, then the professional and the technical workers, how much professional and technical workers, whether it is inclusive or not, whether we have presence of all the genders or not, then the presence in the legislatures, senators, etc. Then the labor force participation rate. Okay, all that is looked, especially with regard to the parameter economic participation and opportunity. Then in the political empowerment, they look for the years with the female or male head of the state, women in the ministerial positions, women in parliament, number of women in the parliament. In this regard, India have asked to include India have suggested to include the number of women in the local body elections also, because in India, after the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment 1992, we have larger presence of women in the local bodies. Then one is educational attainment, when we look where we look for the primary, secondary and tertiary educations, then health and survival, the sex ratio at birth, and the life expectancy of the people of different genders. All these are the parameters based on which this global gender index or report is prepared. Now, with regard to the India, where the gap is actually lying, the shares of women are high in the primary, secondary and tertiary education. It have seen an uptrend in past few years, but they have only been modestly increasing. The increase has been slow. The gap between men and women literacy rate is 17.2%. Okay, that is also one of the parameter or area where India is lagging behind, and rank of India there is 124 on that indicator or parameter, the difference between the educational attainment of men and women. So the Indian statistics, or the statistics that is prepared by the India, what does that show? This unified district information system for education and the All India survey on higher education, which is prepared by the Ministry of Education. This UDI SE plus report of 21-22 shows that we have 13.79 crore boys that were enrolled in the school in comparison with the 12.73 crore girls, meaning that girls make up almost 48% of the school population. The preschool or kindergarten girls make up almost 46.8% of enrolled children, whereas primary school class 1 to 5, the number of girls that make up to the enrolled children is 47.8%, and this percentage is 48.3 in the elementary school. Whereas if we look into the secondary school, this percentage declined to 47.9%. Means we have seen a decline from elementary or primary school to the secondary school. This is also a report that has been actually prepared few years back by this UDI SE plus only. It have also seen that the female enrollment have seen a uptrend in the past few years. But if you will see that there is a major highlight from that we can see from this report is that females enrollment in programs like which are related to the arts, humanities, etc. has been very robust or has been very high. But if we look into the technical subjects, technical courses, the women's participation or enrollment has been lower. For example, courses like BTech, LLB, MBA or MTech. In all these courses, the female participation or enrollment has been low as compared to their enrollment in the courses which are from the arts background or the humanities background. So what are the various reasons for this gender gap? First is the poverty. And when there is lot of poverty, the people do not have proper resources to go for the educational. And when this is coupled with the social norms and the gender stereotypes, this lead to a further abysmal situation where the education of the male members or the male child is prioritized over the female childs. It is being generally felt in the society, the societal norms and the stereotyping is there that females are more suitable for household works. They are engaged in the household works, whereas male children or the male members go for the education. And this notion in the society, this stereotyping coupled with the poverty is one of the major reasons for this gender gap. Then the cultural notions. In some of the cultures, there is cases where child marriages are very prevalent. So that also leads to low participation of women in the education. Then the safety concerns. There has been a lot of issue with regard to the safety that can be provided while commuting from home to the schools, then actual in the schools also. So that is also one of the reason that demotivate students, especially the female students, for going to the schools. Then the lack of infrastructure, proper infrastructure. The proper functioning toilets are not present in most of the schools. Okay, that is also one of the reason that females get demoted to attend the schools. Then the sexual violence and the discrimination that they face in the society overall or in the schools are also one of the demotivating factor for them. Then the lack of female role models. They do not have proper female role models, especially in the technical sectors, etc. By seeing whom they can go for the educational attainment or for the further higher studies. But if we will invest in the girls and women education, it will have a ripple effect in the economy. There will be large scale implications. There will be large scale implications throughout various institutions of the society. It will benefit families. The children that will be raised by that educated women will be getting better nutrition, will be getting better education, and their primary and secondary socialization will be very good. Then it will also increase the productivity in the economy. Okay, the resources that are there in the economy will be better used. Then it will also curb the hunger in the society, because these women, when they will be also doing some work, they will have proper educational attainment, they can go and participate in the various domains of the society, and they can also earn money that can help in reducing or curbing the hungers. It will also create sustainable nations. The growing evidence shows that the corporates that are led by women are more focused on the sustainable development that is going on with the sustainability. Then it will also strengthen economies. When the female labor force participation will be higher, it will increase more, economic growth will be there, and ultimately it will also strengthen the economy. And there will be also improved health, whether it is of women or the children that are born out of that woman. Various government initiatives that are going on, especially with regard to the female education. There is Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, which is a flagship scheme of the government of India, where government is mainly addressing issues like female feticide, abortions, etc. And it have also focused on the increasing participation, increasing enrollment of women. Then the Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana is there, which is a saving account generally opened with the post office, where we get generally a higher rate of interest as compared to the other account. And these accounts generally matured at the age of 18 years and 21 years. When that child attains the age of 18 and 20 years, that account gets matured. So that can be used for the educational purposes, that can be used for the higher education purposes. Then the Balika Samriddhi Yojana is there. Central Board of Secondary Education Merit Scholarship Scheme for single girl child is there. Then National Scheme for incentives to girls for secondary education, to increase the enrollment in the secondary education. Then there is one initiative by Niti Aayog, that is Saksham Bitiya, where they are focusing on empowering the adolescent girls. Then there is National Education Policy 2020, which focused on setting up a gender inclusion fund, mainly to increase the participation of women in the STEM sector, in the research oriented sectors. Then these funds will mainly be utilized to support the STEM education, as I have already told. Then various other schemes for overall empowerment of women, for example, the paid maternity leave, Himmat and Triple Talaq abolition. Then Ujjwala Yojana, Poshan Abhiyan, Mission Indradhanush for providing immunization and vaccination. Then Mudra Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, where women are given some extra benefits as compared to the male members. Then various scholarship schemes, etc. are also being run by the central government as well as state government. Then Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas, etc. that are being set up by the government. So overall, government has been focusing a lot to improve the women participation in the education sector. So what should be the way forward? First, we need to address the poverty and the social barriers. For this, we can go for conditional cash transfers. Okay, there can be some cash transfers that can be provided to these women when they will be attending the schools regularly. That can improve the enrollment and presence of women in the schools and colleges. Then there is also need to raise the community awareness, and we can run various campaigns mainly to address the gender stereotypes, etc. Then there is also need to improve the access and the quality of education. Here there is need to increase the girls' school in the rural areas, so that can be properly accessible to the women. They don't have to commute long distance. Then there is also need to invest in the quality education. For this we need to update our curriculum at regularly. We need to update our curriculum in sync with the demand of the industry, what is being demanded by the industry. For example, in today's world the demand of industry is internet of things, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, etc. So we need to update our curriculum at the regular interval so that these women who are attaining the education can get better employment. Then there is also need to prioritize the sanitation facilities. It is not the mere presence of the toilets that is needed, rather whether those toilets are properly functional, whether those toilets are in proper condition or not, that is also need to be ensured. Then there is also need to focus on the STEM education. Next we also need to empower the girls and families. For this we can have some scholarship programs, life skills and career counseling can be done with the help of private sector, civil society organization. Then there is also need to provide parental education, and here the civil society organization and NGOs can play a better role. That parents should understand, they need to be taught that what is the importance of girl education. They need to understand that if they are not sending their child to the education, what is the loss they are actually having with themselves, and what is the loss they are making to the country. Then we also need to utilize the technology and the innovation. For this we can have distance learning and digital education platforms, educational apps and the content. Then sanitary hygiene kits can be provided with the help of online e-commerce facilities. So for this we also need to improve our digital penetration as well as the internet connectivity. Then some legal and institutional frameworks that needs to be changed. For example, there is need for strict enforcement of Right to Information Act. We need to have proper checks at regular interval that whether these are being followed or not. Then there is also need for reservation for women in the educational institutions. And there is also need for a stronger legal mechanism against the child marriages. Here there is proper oversight mechanism is the need of the hour, that we are having proper checks that at which time, at which place these child marriages are happening, so that we can curb that. A mains practice question from this topic is that India continues to face a significant gender gap in education. Discuss the key factors contributing to this disparity and suggest comprehensive strategies to bridge the gap. Now, next topic is local job quotas. The context of this topic is that Karnataka government has put on hold the bill which is mandating reservation for locals in the private sector after a huge backlash. The syllabus to which this particular topic belongs is GS Paper 2, Indian Constitution and Fundamental Rights. So let's try to understand the background first. So Karnataka State Employment of Local Candidates in Industries, Factories and Other Establishment Draft Bill 2024 has been tabled. This has been cleared by the cabinet of the Karnataka, but as of now this has been put on hold. This draft bill aims to provide employment opportunities to the local people. Here the 70% of non-management jobs will be reserved for the locals, whereas the 50% of jobs in the management category should be reserved for the people belonging to the Karnataka. Here what they say is with regard to the definition of the local candidate, a local candidate will be someone who is born in Karnataka and has been domiciled in the state for at least 15 years and who is capable of speaking, writing and reading the Kannada legibly and passes a required test by the nodal agency. Only that person will be considered as a local candidate. So what are the various legal challenges, particularly in context of local job quotas, in providing the local job quotas? First is the anti-discriminatory guarantees that are provided in the Constitution. What happens? This quota system is actually discriminating between a local candidate, a person belonging to that state, and person belonging to the rest of the country. So this is a discriminatory practice which is against our constitutional provision. For example, Article 14, which calls for the equality before law, and Article 15, which provides for the equal protection of law, that there should not be any discrimination based on the religion, race, caste, place of birth, etc. Then the Article 16, which provides for the equal opportunity in terms of employment. This job quota system is also against that also, Article 16. In Dr. Pradeep Jain versus Union of India case 1984, Supreme Court says that some preference can be given to the local people, but this should not be absolute. Then in November 2023, the Punjab and Haryana High Court deemed Haryana's law which have mandated 75% reservation for locals in the private sector as unconstitutional. Then in the Indira Sahni's judgment, which came in 1992, Supreme Court have emphasized, they have established that the total reservation, including the domicile reservation, should not surpass this 50% of the available seats. This should not breach this 50% ceiling. Then the legal experts believe that in our constitution, there is no provision for providing the private sector reservation. Then there are state legislative power limitations. Actually, the place of residence as a qualification for a job under the state government can be only prescribed by the parliament. So when these state legislature are providing the reservation provision in the private sector, legal experts believe that there is a lot of confusion, there is lack of clarity whether they have this jurisdiction or not, whether they have that power or not to provide the place of residence as a criteria for getting job in the private sector. This is also against the freedom of movement. Now, a question I want to ask you people is that which of the article of the Constitution of India, which is the fundamental right in India, that provides for freedom of internal movement, and which article of the fundamental right provide for the freedom of external movement? Now, let's look into arguments in favor of private sector reservation. The first is it will help in mitigating the unemployment and it will also help in stimulating the local economies. Actually, the state governments have some political compulsions. They have to address the issues of unemployment and obviously they have to go for a robust economic growth. And that is where this bill has come. The various states are going in this direction, that they need to address the issues of unemployment at the local level, at the state levels. Then it will also help in promoting the equitable distribution of economic benefits. Actually, what is happening, for example, in the case of Karnataka itself, in the Bangalore, there has been a lot of migrants from the North India who have got jobs. So the equitable, as per the equitable principle, the economic benefits of any one state should be distributed to the people belonging to that state. So the experts who are favoring this private sector reservation says that this will help in promoting the equitable distribution of economic benefits. The economic benefits that are coming in that state are being reaped by the local people. Then it will also help in enhancing the workforce capabilities, the capabilities of that particular state, the skill sets that local people have in that particular state. That will help in improving their further employability in the future. Then it will also help in fostering the social cohesion, the bonding between the people that are there in that state. That cohesion, that bonding, that integration will be there. That will also help in promoting the unity among the local people belonging to that state. Then it will also help in retaining the local talent. The cases of brain drain, that where the local people, when they are not getting proper jobs in their states, they are going to some other states, they are migrating to other parts of the world. This brain drain condition can be curbed if the reservation is provided in the provided for the locals in the jobs at the state level only, because this will help in getting proper employment in the local level at the state level itself. And this will also help in preserving the cultural identity. Let's suppose if Karnataka government is focusing, they have given a criteria to be categorized as the local resident. They want that people should be aware of the Kannada language. This will help in preserving that identity of Kannada people, the language of the Kannada people, etc. Then arguments in against of the private sector reservation. The first is the talent acquisition constraint, because it will affect, this reservation will affect the operational efficacy and the competitive advantage of the company. They will find it very difficult to choose between the local people, that whether they are properly equipped with the skill sets that is required by the company. Let's suppose if they are employing those people who do not have very well versed with the skill sets, and they would have the company would have to provide some skills training programs, they have to run some training programs that may affect the efficacy of that company, the efficiency and the profitability of that company. Then the skill inadequacy and the training burdens that the company have to bear, and this may hamper the profitability that can lead to extra expenditure on the training initiatives for the government. Then it also disincentivizes the investment in that states. The investment, whether that is domestic investment or foreign investment that would be coming in that state, those investors would have to think twice, because this private sector reservation might affect the efficacy, productivity and the profitability of that company. So that may act as a deterrent to the investors, and they may also impact the economic development in that state and the job creation in that state in the longer run. Then the administrative and legal onuses, that legal and administrative burden that may lie on the state government to identify the local candidate, that may further create some financial constraint on the state exchequer. Then there is also potential for discrimination, where we are discriminating between the local people and the people belonging to the other parts of the India. Then there are macroeconomic repercussions also. For example, it can affect the national integration as well as the economic mobility across the country. The mobility or the movement of the employees, investors, companies, etc. can be affected, because they might have to consider this criteria. Okay, whether that private company will be comfortable in aligning with this private sector reservation, in following this private sector reservation or not. For example, this goods and services tax, which has increased the economic integration, the national integration. Now there is one tax across the country. But experts believe this private sector reservation can lead to national disintegration, where there will be different quotas in the different states. Then it can also affect the social discord or the social cohesion in the society. There might be some social tensions between the local people and the non-local people, and that can create a law and order situation. This can lead to division in the societies. So what should be the way forward? There is need for skill development programs that is already being run by the government, for example, Pradhan Mantri Kausal Vikas Yojana, etc. But there is need for proper oversight of those programs as well as proper enforcement of those programs. Second is that there is need for updation of those curriculum that is being followed in that programs. Second is that we also need to have proper collaboration with the industry, that industry can also participate in the skilling, etc. Then there is need for phased implementation and the flexibility, means this should not be a knee-jerk reaction, rather it should come with giving some time to the industry bodies that they can cope up with various requirements that they need to follow in one particular law, to adhere to those laws. And before even making those laws, these industry bodies, these industries should be consulted properly. Then there is also need for focus on the meritocracy and need for building a national talent pool. For this, we need to have skill census, where we can map the skill set that our youth as of now have, that can help in proper skilling of those people, and also making proper availability of various jobs according to their skill sets. Then there is also need to address the underlying causes of unemployment. For example, the lack of proper education, mismatch between demand of industry and what is being provided in the curriculums of universities, etc. Lack of proper updation of pedagogy, etc. Then lack of proper vocational training in the colleges. All these needs to be addressed properly. Then there is also need for transparent communication and stakeholder engagement. There should be proper communication between the government as well as the industry and with the employees also, so that a proper law can be made, and there can be a balance between the reservation and efficacy and productivity of the company. A mains practice question that you can solve from this particular topic is that elaborate on the legal challenges involved in providing local quotas for private job in a state. Also discuss its potential benefits and drawbacks in context of economic development and social cohesion. Our next topic is rules for IAS probationers. The context of this topic is that on July 19, UPSC said it has registered a criminal case against the Pooja Khedkar, a 2022 batch IAS officer who was on probation, and also issued a so-cause notice cancelling her candidature from the Civil Services Exam 2022. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, role of civil services in a democracy. Now, after getting recommended by the UPSC, people go for the training in the Labasna, which is situated in Mussoorie. Now, every recruit who is recommended by the UPSC is subjected to a probation period of a 2 year. Now, government holds the right to extend the probation period by an additional year if government deems that necessary. The probationer is required to attend the lectures. They have to participate in various exams that are conducted in the academy. Then various tests and exercises that are being directed by the director of the academy. Upon the termination of the probationary period, the probationer's performance will be evaluated and marked out of total 900. Means there also exams happen and marking out of 900 happens. The probationer is required to undertake the final examination after the course gets completed. In the event of probationer missing an exam due to illness or any other uncontrollable circumstances, government may permit him or her to appear for a special exam that is held about 3 months from the date of original exam. So if someone was not very well, he might be given this relaxation to attend that special exam, which will be conducted after 3 months of the original date of exam. Then if a probationer fails in the final exam by not achieving the minimum required marks, he may be granted the opportunity to take a special exam in the subjects that he or she failed. However, the marks obtained in this exam will not influence the seniority in the state cadre. With regard to the order of merit, the central government will prepare a list of probationers, and the order of merit shall be as follows. It will be decided based on the aggregate marks obtained in the competitive exam, means the exam that you gave while giving the civil services exam, means the aggregate of mains exam as well as the interview exam will be considered, and then based on the performance record at the Labasna, that what is your performance and the record in the academy, and also based on the final exam that is happening at the academy. So all these 3 marks will be added, and then there will be a list of probationers and order of merit will be made. In case of tie between the 2 probationers, the date of birth of probationer will be considered to determine the seniority, and these probationer will receive a salary according to his or her skills. The probationers are obliged to follow the rules of disciplinary conduct established by the institution academy, that is Labasna. Then with regard to the other probation rules, that probationer might be discharged if he or she fails to pass the re-exam that he might have gone for after getting failed in the first instance itself. And if the government deems the probationer is unfit for the recruitment to the service, that can be or due to any condition, and if he or she has deliberately neglected his or her probationary duties and studies, if he or she lacks the necessary mental and character traits required for the service, if he or she fails to adhere to the provision of these rules, the rules that a probationer have to follow while going for the probation period. Our next topic is budget. The context of this topic is that budget session will begin from tomorrow, that is 22nd July 2024. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your UPSC Prelims Indian Economy and syllabus of your GS paper 3 Government Budgeting and Fiscal Policy. So let's try to look into basics first. Article 112 of the Indian Constitution provides for a union budget of a year, and it is also referred as annual financial statement. This budget or annual financial statement is a statement of the estimated receipts and expenditure of government in a financial year. This budget also contains the estimates of the revenue and capital receipts of the government of India. It will also have the ways and means to raise those revenues. It will also have the estimates of the expenditure that government is going to incur. It will also have details of actual receipts and actual expenditure of the closing financial year. Then it will also have the economic and the financial policy of the coming year. Then if we talk about the various stages of the budget, there is presentation of budget, then there is general discussion on the budget in the Lok Sabha, then there is scrutiny by various departmental committees, then there is voting on the demands of the grants in the Lok Sabha, then there is passing of appropriation bill, and after that there is passing of finance bill. So finance bill majorly looks into the revenue side, whereas appropriation bills looks into the expenditure sides. The budget division of Department of Economic Affairs in the Ministry of Finance is the nodal body which is responsible for the preparation of the budget. The first budget of independent India was presented in 1947. Now we will look into prelim snippets. In this section, our first topic is Nipah virus. This is an infection that is newly emerging zoonotic disease, and this causes severe disease in both animals and humans. This Nipah virus was first identified in 1998 during an outbreak in the Malaysia. The fruit bats are the natural host of this Nipah virus. Then what happens, actually this natural host is fruit bats. Now transmission of this Nipah virus to humans may occur after direct contact with infected bats and pigs. It can also affect by consuming the fruits eaten by the infected bats and the birds. Let's suppose this bat have sat on any of the fruits, that can be coconut water, coconut fruit, or any else. Now let's suppose that fruit was infected. Now a human has consumed that fruit. That may also lead to infection with Nipah virus. Then also there is human to human transmission possible. Various symptoms include fever, headache, drowsiness, disorientation, mental confusion, coma, and that can also potentially lead to death or the mortality. Various treatment, there is no specific treatment for Nipah virus. Primary treatment is intensive support care. Next topic is UAPA, or Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967. Main objective of this act is to aim at the effective prevention of unlawful activities association in India. For example, smuggling, terror-related activities, etc. Now the punishment includes the death penalty and life imprisonment as the highest punishment under the UAPA. This also have extra territorial applicability, means the law is applicable to the offenders if the crime is committed on the foreign soil and extending its reach beyond the India's border, means it have extraterritorial jurisdiction also. There is a centralized authority. This act grants the absolute power to the central government, enabling it to declare an activity as unlawful through the official gazette, means the unlawful activities can be amended, can be updated through the official gazette by the central government. Then if we talk about the jurisdictional inclusivity, this UAPA applies to both Indian and foreign nationals, allowing charges to be filed against individuals regardless of the nationality. Our next topic is tea industry and RoDTEP scheme. So actually what happened, this tea industry has sought higher rates under the RoDTEP scheme to make the exports more competitive in the overseas market. RoDTEP, the full form of RoDTEP is Remission on Duties and Taxes on the Export Products. So mainly it provides for the refund of the previously non-refundable duties and the taxes. Some local level taxes, for example, mandi tax, VAT, coal cess, etc. that were earlier not being refunded on the export products has also been included in this scheme. There is an automated system of credit, means transferable electronic scripts are happening by this Central Board of Indirect Taxes. Then this is a multi-sector scheme which covers employment-oriented sectors like textile sector, etc. Then manufacturer exporters and merchant exporters, means the traders are both eligible for the benefits, and this scheme is also WTO compliant. Next topic is EPFO, or Employee Provident Fund Organization, which manages the provident fund and pension accounts of the member employees and also implements the Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. And this act provides for the institution of provident funds, or the PF funds, for employees in factories and other establishment, and mainly this is administered by Ministry of Labour and Employment. This act is administered by this Ministry of Labour and Employment. And this EPFO is world's largest social security organization in terms of client and volume of financial transactions that is happening. This was all from my side for today's Analyst. I hope you liked the session. Keep studying. All the very best. Thank you.